Welcome back to Crafting a Meaningful Life. I'm Mary Crafts. I am your host today. I have a show for you that if you thought about ever watching, this is the one I want you to listen to. I've had so many profound guests that are well known, and to be honest with you, I had never heard of Krista Kujat. But when I read about her, well, you're not even going to believe it. You're going to get blown away by that, about all the things she's done. I thought she must be like 80 years old to have accomplished all that stuff. But then, and she goes by RHIAH. Krista Kujat is her pen name, and RHIAH is what all of her friends call her. And I'm already one of her dearest friends and admirers, so I'm going to call her RHIAH on the podcast today. But Krista, you have done so much stuff. I mean, seriously, way more than I have done in my life. I'm only in my 70s. And I thought, this lady, maybe I'm finally going to talk to somebody who's older than I am. And look at you, you're just a pup. Oh my gosh.
Well,
Okay.
I used a lot in. I'm 53 years old and I've had many careers,
Oh,
as
and
you.
looking 23, may I say. All right, there we go.
My one of my life goals is to become younger and sexier as I age. So this is
It's
my
called living in crescendo.
yes. Oh, I love that
It's one of
expression.
my hashtags. But it's
Oh,
not mine.
living in
Crafting a
Chris.
meaningful life is mine, but you can certainly use living in crescendo.
Oh, I will borrow that. Thank
Yeah.
you. Living in crescendo. Oh, I love
Yeah,
that.
it's beautiful. A lot of people use it. Well, actually, not a lot of people use it, but people who are committed that it resonates to what
Hmm.
that looks like.
Hmm.
Can I just tell you, since I've retired, my life has been in crescendo. I mean, I climbed Kilimanjaro, I started my podcast, I wrote my first book. I have been serving international humanitarian missions around the world. I remarried. We're talking some major life changes here. That's after I turned 65.
Mm,
And so
beautiful.
it is possible to live in crescendo.
Mhm.
So, girl, hang on, because life's got a hold of you.
I
Let's
can't
just list
wait.
some of these things that you've done. Okay. You worked as an actress in New York,
Hmm.
trained and worked as a trauma therapist. Oh my,
Hmm.
that enough was enough to see you through your 53 years.
Hmm.
You later founded retreats in Northern California. You've lived in France, Switzerland, Portugal, Mexico, New York, and now you reside in Los Angeles.
Hmm.
You like to
Yes,
move around a lot, do you? Is that your deal?
I do. I mean, all of those places you listed, some of them were under a year, and then others were much longer term for several years. But I
Yeah.
definitely have an adventurous spirit, and I love to learn about life through other cultures and other lenses. So it's very much a part of who I am for sure, to be a citizen of the world.
And then
Yeah.
after all of that,
Hmm.
you have stepped into this new genre for you. Maybe
Yeah.
it's not necessarily new to you, but it's new to us and what you've been out there with the world.
Yeah.
And it really, can I just say this is one of the best books I've ever read?
Oh, I'm so
And
honored.
I mean that seriously.
Mm.
It is a book of poetry. And I wouldn't say I'm particularly into poetry, but this is not what I consider poetry. Poetry for me is like, na, 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 na. Roses are red, violets are blue.
Yeah. You
Sugar
know,
is sweet, and so are you. That
yes,
kind of thing.
right. That's
And
it.
that's not what this is.
No,
This
it's
is
not.
taking bits of the most profound wisdom that I have been blessed to read and putting them in single sentences so that I could read it. And then afterwards, there was no big explanation and expounding on what it was left for me to
Mhm.
interpret.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right, so let's tell, how did you walk into this where you are right now?
Well, there's so many ways I can answer that question, and I think I'll start with, well, first of all, you're not the first person to say that about poetry, that they're not a poetry person, and this book resonated. And my perspective in writing this book also wasn't necessarily from a lens of, being a poet, even though I've wrote poetry all my life for myself. I really wrote this book with a desire to name the experiences that I feel are deeply personal and also universal, that are unnamed or unacknowledged in some way through language. And so in my work as a trauma therapist, I noticed that, when we work with the body somatically, there's not language for a lot of the sensations in our bodies when that is part of the work, to pay attention to what's alive within ourselves. And so metaphor was a very strong vehicle to be able to describe what's happening in the physical reality, as well as the interiority, like the reality of our interiority. And so that was one passion that has just, it got amplified during that time when I was working with people. And then also I realized that so many words that we use, like passion, for example, they're overused in the, especially in the self-help industry and in the coaching industry. And they're so overused that there's an assumption that we are all talking about the same thing when we're not. And we all have our own associations and biases through our life experiences that get projected onto the words we use. And then the language loses its power because two people might be using the same word and associating with two entirely different understandings of it. And
Wearing
so
different glasses.
different glasses, we're wearing different lenses according to our life experiences,
Yeah.
which is part of being human. And yet when I found for myself, like this, the inspiration behind naming these nuances were important, because then it gives depth and meaning to our lived experiences that we can connect on and that we can share together and name. And I feel like that is also the beauty of connection, when we can connect on truths that we can acknowledge from our own lives and know that we're on the same playing field. And I think a lot of that understanding can get lost when we don't slow down and acknowledge deeper meaning that we have in our lived experiences. So that's what led me to write this book. And it was during a time I had the idea for a long time. And during COVID, when I was running a retreat house business, I eventually sold that business and went to go live around the world. And I had many sojourns in different countries. And I decided I'm just going to be on sabbatical without any ambitions.
I
don't
love that.
do anything, and I'm just going to find out who I am without ambition, and following my intuition with every single
Can you say that one more time? I want my listeners to make sure they don't miss what you just said.
Yes, to give myself permission to live without ambition. There's so much wrapped up in me around, things that I had pursued in my life, and the identities that I had, that I attached value to, and what I provided for others into the world, and being in service in a certain way. And I wanted to be free of all of that. I wanted to be free of my ideas of my value in terms of how I provide things, services and things to the world.
And what you do.
And what you do, this exactly the identity wrapped around what I do, and to be free of that 100%, and to follow my bliss through the language of intuition, and be really present and slow down moment to moment to see where am I called to go next? What country would feed my life force right now in a very specific way, and to have the luxury to ask those questions and not be bound to structures, and to being accountable to others as I had been my whole life. And then that's when the opening came to really marinate in writing this book, and it was such a joy. It was really
it was such a joy for me. I took this book with me on the plane when I was traveling to Ukraine. Anyway, it's called Life's Poetic Glossary. And we're going to put the links for this at the end. as well as how to follow and learn more about RHIAH. But I took it with me on the plane, and I thought, oh, I need to get that read. And so I didn't read it on the way over. I watched movies, fell asleep, blah, blah. On my way back, I thought, this time I'm going to read the book. I read the book. I thought, oh, that's a great book. And I put it away in my above luggage above me, and went to sleep, woke back up, kind of with a start. I was like, I'm going to read that book again. I was reading it just to get through it. I wasn't reading it to absorb the wisdom. And when I took it back down, I almost just kind of held it like tenderly. And I just began to read it. And I was aware that it's not a book that has to be read cover to cover. You list all these different things. And so I could easily scroll down it and say, what do I want to know about permission? What do I want to know about sanctuary? And even though I did read it again, cover to cover, straight forward to back, that's not how it ever has to be read.
Right.
A friend of mine, Jess Gunn, every time she speaks to me, she brings a notepad and a paper. And she writes down little nuggets of wisdom that I say. And I said to her one day, what are you doing, Jess? And she goes, you always say these great nuggets of wisdom. And I never want to forget them, so I always bring my notepad. And so I thought about calling her and saying, listen, Jess, just go buy this book. And all of my nuggets of wisdom are included right here. You got them, babes.
Package. Yes.
It's a pre-packaged deal. We resonated on so many things, and I don't even know quite where to begin, but I just would like you to share with me expansions on a few things.
Sure.
Like, this is one page. There are these beautiful flowers on one side, and on this side at the top, all it says is courage is. That's how everything starts. Lists the emotion, and then she talks about it. And this one said very simply, I never thought you could describe courage in one line, but she said, courage is the triumph of being yourself.
Yes.
I thought of, there's no incident where that does not apply. What prompted you to write that particular sentence about courage?
Well, courage, in my experience, is one of those words that also holds a lot of charge to it in our culture, where, we're told to be brave and stand up for ourselves and, run into the fire. And that's not always the wisest thing to do. And we're also all very different. And so I wanted to redefine that particular lens on courage as, being something that is valiant and that we need to do in order to be good. And I also wanted to speak to the fulfillment of what courage delivers. And to me, and I'm sure you will relate to this as well from I've listened to a few of your podcasts, and I see that we share some of the similar lenses.
A lot, yeah.
Yes. Around
Twinners.
Twinners. It's such a delight. I look at courage as basically the privilege of getting to become who we are, because when we are in the act of being our truest selves, there's no one in the world who can be like us, which means that it is a journey of shedding all of the layers that are not us. And that takes courage when it's not mirrored on the outside of us in any way. So through society, through our family patterns, through our friends even, and our deepest longing too, as a human, is to belong. And so
Yes.
really know and understand that we can belong to life. We can belong to our communities, to our families, to the world, while being so fully and uniquely ourselves. is courage to me. And I looked at it from all angles, and I felt this was the, for me at least, the purest way of describing courage, because that the gift is in getting to be ourselves fully and completely. So it's a
I
triumph.
couldn't agree with you more. You know, that's why I pulled that out of there,
We love
because
it.
it's our deepest desire to belong.
Yeah.
And yet we have such a different perception of that. Well, that must mean I must sell out who I am so I can fit here and fit here and fit here. And the moment we get to step back and say, oh, you mean the way I belong is just to be me?
Yes.
To have that courage? It's life changing.
It is life changing. Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to get through as many of these as I can because I want your wisdom on them. Okay, this was one of my favorite ones because I laughed and related to every single one of these, and that is the word duty.
Yes.
Oh, duty. When my
Yes.
sons were growing up and they were working on their Eagle Scouts and they were in scouting and they had that Duty to God award. I even wrote letters to the National Boy Scouts and I said, I'm sorry, if you could change that to service to God instead of duty to God. I said, I'm going to have my boys shine in that. That's going to be wonderful. But I cannot promote them to worry about their duty to God. I want them to worry about their love of God and service to God and to themselves, but not because of duty. Well, I got the worst letter back, as you can imagine. But anyway, so it's a little bit of a sore spot for me. So I'm going to read this one. Duty is. And then, of course, she lists all these different things that duty is while I'm looking at this beautiful Kala on the other page. Duty is, now listen to this carefully, guys, a corset with cords of obligation pulled so tightly around your ribs, you don't even know your true body shape anymore. What a description was that? And then over here, I have more to read. Okay. Ever since Duty was a child, her greatest fear has not been knowing who she is without all the things that she does. Nearly every day, guilt, another one of my favorites, guilt comes to visit Duty for morning coffee as she writes out her, what? To-do list. While Duty can't stand how guilt rambles on with endless monologues about what she should do and why, Duty listens anyway because she believes guilt must have the answers. Duty's second worst fear is being called selfish. Well, I know that was one of my fears. Lastly, about Duty. These are just excerpts I pulled out. What Duty is so close to discouraging is that it's easier than she thinks to save herself from the waterlogged weight of 1,000 inherited agreements. Let me read that. 1,000 inherited agreements that she never chose for herself in the first place. All she needs to do is say, nope, no, not interested, no can do, without any explanation needed. Wow, you have had some kind of experience with Duty as well. You couldn't have written those words.
Oh, yes. Yes. Deep, deep ties with duty. And again, the association with duty to value and being valued for what we do, what we give, how we are, and to really be able to untangle that and see, where does true desire live, as opposed to showing up to others and being loyal to others at the cost of being loyal to ourselves. So yes, I have some deep, deep entanglements with duty myself.
I just had a huge exhale with that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And I love that one of the lines you shared was the last line,
Yeah.
because the exit from duty is actually a lot simpler than we think at times. I've done a lot of work at, looking at my family patterns and how my systemic belief system has influenced my choices in my own life.
Sure.
And while that's important work, it's also equally important to acknowledge that at any time we have the power to say no, and it can be that simple, and to really just stand in the guilt and in the fear and choose that more expanded feeling that we know is more true than the contracted feelings that we have around duty and guilt and fear. So it can be an easy exit.
I think that's one of my greatest wishes for humankind is that they
Mhm.
release all duty
Mm.
and choose
Mhm.
what they want to do, not
Mhm.
out of duty, but
Mhm.
because they want to serve.
Mhm.
And service, of course, then being the forerunner to love and to
Mhm.
oneness.
Mhm. Yes.
All right, let's talk about forgiveness.
Mm. Really.
I know she has all these wonderful topics, and I'm going to run out of time before I ever get to talk about them all. But forgiveness is to offer yourself compassion for not being able to see then what you can see now. Forgiveness is a quiet cloud that floats in the air like a possibility. She will land upon your lap when the storm of your circumstances settle. Due to her lightness, you will only become aware of her presence when you stop wishing the storm had never happened in the first place.
Mhm. Yes.
It's
That's
like
right.
not the most profound thing. I mean, I think about how many times that's exactly what I do. I wish the storm had never happened in the first place.
Yes, I've been there
Rather
too
than,
so many
yeah.
times, and it stops the process of really having that compassion for ourselves and for others. It's a really very real obstacle at times towards that path of forgiveness.
How important do you see forgiveness, that principle, to be a living, breathing thing in our lives?
Hmm. I feel it's one of the pillars, especially for relational freedom. That's one of my passions. Like I feel I've all of my life lessons have kind of culminated into a passion for being able to have relational truth and freedom and harmony. And when I look at the ways that I engaged in patterns in my past that were not kind to myself, um, I had a tendency to think, how could I have not seen that? How could I have engaged? Like, I knew it didn't feel good. I knew it wasn't right for me, even. And yet, what kept me there? What kept me engaging in that
Mm.
pattern? It's very easy to beat oneself up. And the shame
Oh,
that then
really? I didn't know that. What? Yeah, that's a new concept to me.
nobody really experiences that, do they?
Yeah.
But also the shame, right? Like I've experienced so many times too, when I beat myself up, then I start to feel shame. And then also there's a barrier to share with others or to reach out for help. And so when we can acknowledge all of those things that get in the way too, self-forgiveness is absolutely one of the pillars to being able to live our freedom and to that starts inside. It's an inside job. It really doesn't have as much to do, even in my experience, with forgiving another person. That also frees us, though it's really that self-forgiveness of how we can be so hard on ourselves is it's a nutrient that is essential. I think it's essential to growth and to freedom and to love and to really being able to enjoy deep connection freely with others. So for me, I don't know, it's up there in the top 5 in terms of relationship with myself, for sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I had someone in my home just last night who was working through her mother, a relationship with her mother,
Mm.
and she felt like she had set some good boundaries. We talked about those. That was all good. And I said, well, this is probably a forgiveness issue.
Mhm.
And she said, oh yeah, I really feel like I've forgiven her. I said, oh, I didn't talk about. It's not about forgiveness issue of you forgiving her.
Right. Right.
So it's actually a forgiveness issue of you forgiving you,
Yes.
forgiving
Yes.
you for not being the daughter that she wanted,
Yeah.
forgiving yourself for anything that you might have said, forgiving yourself for being not enough, forgiving. And I named all these things, and pretty soon she's crying. I said, so just sit with that and I said, in the morning I'm going to do podcasts, but then I'm going to give you this book.
Oh,
That has all
lovely.
these great things about forgiveness in it. Oh my gosh, girl. You are just
And
hubbard.
I think the other thing I've learned about forgiveness in my own life is that at times there's no rushing it. Like even when we know that we need to forgive ourselves for our own actions in the past or how we haven't been kind to ourselves, there is a process that can be very mysterious, and forgiveness doesn't
Yes.
always arrive when we want it to. And I think that's another really subtle nuance that I've learned is to not, again, be hard on myself to rushing the process.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have control over the timing of when forgiveness enters us
Yeah.
sometimes, but
Yeah.
being open to it is the first step.
To be ready to have that peace
Yes. Yes.
and to let
Absolutely.
go of
Yeah.
that sandpaper.
The sandpaper. That's a great metaphor.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I feel like sometimes it's just on my heart.
Yeah.
I don't like that. And when you're ready to say, okay, I think I'm going to just take that off and throw that away, that exhale that happens. All right, let's talk about, she got a thing in here on money. You ready for this? I'm just going to read one thing from money.
Okay.
Money is the same vehicle that drives surviving and thriving. The only difference is the driver, scarcity or abundance. Bing, 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 bing. It is the difference.
Hmm.
How would you describe to someone the difference between those two things?
I'll share in the context of what I've noticed in myself because I feel sometimes that's the way of personalizing, then sometimes allows it to be more accessible.
Sure.
So for myself, in the ways when I'm operating from scarcity, what that can look like is really going through the accounts and balances, micromanaging, really looking at how much I'm spending for on toothpaste or something really basic, feeling like I won't have enough for the other things that I so deeply want. And then there's a dynamic with money around wanting things and wanting more as opposed to being fulfilled with what I have. And so for me, the difference between being the driver that's operating through scarcity or abundance is really being connected with I want and I don't have enough is scarcity. And in the other driver's seat, abundance is I am so fulfilled by what I have. I am so grateful for what I have. And anything else beyond this is a bonus that brings me joy. And then I can orient myself around money with a sense of joy in spending it. I'm not overspending because I feel fulfillment and there's not a hole in me feeling like I want more. So it's a whole host of things. And I think that for myself, it's something I always need to check in with, which, which avatar do I have on me today driving the bus? Is it that
Yeah.
part of me that's wanting all these things because I'm not feeling like totally full right now? Or is it the
Yeah.
part
That
of
I
me
am
that
not
is just
enough without them.
not enough? Yeah, right. That is the root. That is the root. So really taking care to give myself that inner attention so that I can feel fulfilled and really operate from that place. And I
And
think the difference is
is,
awareness between those two.
isn't that our goal in this life for each other when we think about what do you want to accomplish? When just
Hmm.
think what that would be like to leave people with that sense of, you mean I'm enough without all that trapping?
Yes. Yes.
And that every single piece of marketing that has ever been created has been
Hmm.
created with one goal in mind:
Hmm.
to have you and I feel we're not enough without them.
Hmm. Right. Yeah.
If you drive this car, if you take this prescription, if you wear this clothes, if
Hmm.
you use this verbiage, if you are seen at this event, if you blah, 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 then, and only then will you be enough. And
That's
like,
right.
that is such malarkey.
It is. We live in a consumeristic culture and also in the self-help world and in the therapeutic world, which is a slippery slope because sometimes there
Yeah,
are genuine programs or people or guides who can serve us
absolutely.
and yet that can also become an addiction, and that is a slippery slope. So yes, this scarcity and abundance mindset is really everything.
Okay, this is my favorite one. There's only 2 words on this page
Oh,
next to a
yes.
beautiful flower. And you don't have to comment on this. I think this comment is enough. Bye.
Mhm.
Normal is a myth. Perfect, perfect. And this one, order. Order is
Hmm.
honoring those who contributed to your growth and development, whether through hard won lessons or blessings.
Mhm.
And I really liked that one, and I wasn't quite sure why.
Hmm.
Because I read it 3 or 4 times trying to make sure I
Mhm.
understood. Tell me what
Mhm.
your thoughts are on that.
Yes. Over a decade ago, I wouldn't have been able to understand this concept, but it's through my work in family constellations where we get to honor those who came before us, including our parents who passed down both their traumatic imprints as well as their gifts. And when we're able to really honor, I'll speak about it in the context of our parents because it is in many contexts, but when we can really honor no matter the pains or what our parents were not able to give us because of circumstances or other conditions, when we can honor what we've received and what we haven't received in forms of lessons and what we can now weave into our own lives to give to ourselves and to others, then we are on nature's path. We're on that
Yes.
natural path of evolution. And not only that, when we honor that presence of those who came before us and how they contributed to our lives, we feel the support at our back and we feel literally the life force that created us behind us. And instead of fighting against it, we get to be at peace with it and feel supported by it. And that's the gift of honoring both the lessons and the blessings that we receive from those who came before us. And that comes in the form of teachers and peers as well. But the familial patterning is very deep, and it's given me so much in my life to honor that.
Because I thought she has some thought that she's really trying to portray here. And I want to
Mhm.
make sure I don't miss this. And so I'm so glad you took time to explain that.
Mm.
Because I knew it was valuable to me. I knew it resonated with me. I'm like, but why? What is that? And I think that that's it.
It
Your
is.
book causes me to go deeper.
Mm.
It created an opportunity for me to be thinking. and internalizing it into my own life of how your wisdom could help me see mine
That's
to
beautiful.
receive. Now, I was ready to read about lots of great things about receiving, and you only said one line is vulnerable.
Yes. Yes. This is another lesson I learned through my work in systemic family patterns and also relational work. And I will share that I was married many years ago, and in that particular relationship, I was the one who was very much in the driver's seat. Like I paid the bills, I, chose the furniture, bought the furniture, I managed all of the administrative things. I was the one who was doing repairs mostly on the house with my own hands. I did a lot, and I was very much in my doer energy, masculine energy, because I thought that my partner was not capable of supporting me in the way that I needed to, the ways that I needed support. And yet, giving was my default. And it was actually also a way of being in control because that's how I value in my relationship. And if I felt value in my relationship, then I'm in control, right? Like I've given all of this, and so therefore I deserve something in return. But being able to just be vulnerable and ask for help and to ask for support is the first step in really truly being able to receive. Because from the position of demanding and expecting and feeling entitled to get something, that's not really receiving. It's wanting and taking, but to truly receive is vulnerable. And to ask is vulnerable because we don't know if we will receive what we need. And then another truth might bubble up to the surface that reveals a truth of whether the person we're in partnership is able to give to us in the ways that we really deeply need and desire. So this is why for me receiving is very vulnerable. Is very vulnerable.
I've done 380 podcasts, and I think what you just offered was some of the most profound wisdom that has been on here. So, my listeners, if you missed that wisdom, stop and go back and listen to that last minute, because it can be very vulnerable to receive, and then you are no longer in control. My first marriage was so much like what you just described. I thought, did she read my book? And that was one of the biggest differences in this marriage. I told you that I, got married just a year and a little bit ago. And he wants to do all these things. And I was like, I got it. And he goes, why do you always have it? And I realized the vulnerability that there was to receiving. And so when I read that, that's it exactly.
That is, I believe, one of our greatest superpowers is to be vulnerable and receive as women. And I don't mean in a gender sense. I mean being in our feminine essence.
Yeah.
To receive, it also creates abundance because when our partners can have a place to give, and we're so grateful to be able to receive it, we want to give more naturally without feeling like we've got to have it all together. It's just from the heart. And then there's an opening to create a natural flow of giving and receiving instead of accounts and balances and quid pro quo and that kind of transactional dynamic that really isn't life-giving for anyone,
Yeah. It has to be full circle. It has to be this whole thing. I remember I was in an exercise one time and they said, Now put forth your right hand to give. And my hand shot out there. I was just holding it out there in front of me like, oh, look at all that giving. Oh, it's so beautiful. I'm such a giving person, So proud of myself. and then it said, now extend your left hand for receiving. And I literally felt like someone had tied it to my side. I could not move my arm. And I'm like, what is that about? And so I just kind of let go for a minute. And I was like, oh, okay. And as I went through this, I realized, okay, you got an issue with receiving, don't you, Mary? And when I finally was able to walk past that and feel the flow of energy, the abundance in the mindset of allowing that to come full circle, you nailed it right on the head, girl. All right, I'm going to do one more, and then we're going to conclude.
Wonderful.
This one. Self-love is, and she has a lot on self-love, because I think both you and I know, RHIAH, that self-love is kind of like, it's what we're going for.
Yes. Yes.
So self-love is knowing that suffering is not a prerequisite for growth. And when I read that, I'm like, oh, really? That's what I've been telling myself all my life. I think it was the very first time I was able to come face to face with, you mean it gets to be easy? It doesn't, I don't have to have suffering to have growth?
Yes.
Convince me of that.
Yeah. So I had a really profound, I'll say a passage in my life about a decade ago where I needed to confront some childhood trauma, and it was really difficult, really scary. I didn't know if I'd make it through the other side. And I had a mentor who has become a dear friend of mine, and he said, in order to release the pain, no, in order to release your suffering, you have to face the pain. And when you face your pain, you release the suffering. So that was the first doorway to me. I thought, okay, I can acknowledge my pain. I can see it. I feel it. So I'm not pushing it down anymore, which I was before. I can let it be free. And then after that, instead of being identified with that suffering as who I am, I have a choice to learn who I'm becoming. And that was a profound difference for me, because instead of telling my story about what happened and blah, 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 and becoming more identified with that story, my opening became, how do I experience pleasure in my life? Who am I when I'm embodying pleasure and relaxation and joy? What is that? If I give myself permission to embody that, I'm not focused on the scars anymore and being identified with all that I went through and all of the suffering. And I think that was like the next piece of learning for me around, in order to love myself, not only does it not need to hurt, not only do I not need to suffer, that I'm allowed to discover who I am beyond that, which is the true me anyways.
That I am not my suffering.
Not my suffering, no. I have another, there's another woman who I really respect, and she's been a mentor from afar in many ways, Alison Armstrong. And she describes this phenomenon as, I think it's dolphins who shed their scars so that they're not identified by their scars. And she had made a decision in her life that she doesn't want to be seen for her scars. That's not who she is. It's part of where she is, but it's not who she is. And I really relate to that. That really resonates for me.
It was a chapter in her journey, but It's not the chapter she's currently in.
No.
So why would we continue on and say, check this out right here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Let me show you this one.
Yeah.
Because that deepens the groove of the identity.
Yeah, it really does. As long as, yeah, I love that. All right, listeners, this is what I want you to do with this book. I very rarely, a lot of people have written books on my podcast, I very rarely say, and I want you to go buy this book. In fact, I'm pretty much sure I've never said it.
Oh,
I want you to go buy this book. And this is how I want you to read this book. And as I talked to RHIAH before we started, it's kind of how she would like you to. I want you to put this book on your coffee table where you can, it's a beautiful book, first off, when it's not all marred up like mine is. And the photographs in here of these black and white flowers are absolutely phenomenal. And then for a while, put a copy, maybe buy 2 copies, and put one by your bed or by your computer or wherever you find yourself lingering. I'm going to put my final copy where I meditate. When something's on my mind that's been brought to my mind, I know it's time for me to spend some time on that. And I can go here now to the glossary where she has listed all of these different emotions. And I can specifically find one. You don't have to read this cover to cover. It's just here as a resource for you for when you need this. It's like a gift. It's such a gift. Is this available on Amazon? You sent me my copy.
yes.
It is.
It's available
Okay.
on Amazon, and I have a golden edition that's available on my site, KristaKujat.com.
What does
It's
that mean, golden edition?
well, the golden edition is a hardcover that has gilded pages. It's the altar edition, and it has gold on the embossing on the front, and it's a really beautiful kind of coffee table, bedside table version of the book, which I
So
would be
I could give this version away that I've marked all up. And I could get a new one that's beautiful, hardcover, gilded gold. Sounds just like me.
Yes, it does sound like you.
Since I'm in my golden years, I think that's a great thing. So we're going to put the link to her website. We're going to put the link to the Amazon book. And of course, you'll have this podcast. This podcast is one that you can listen to over and over. This is not a one-shot through podcast. I mean, I'm talking wisdom, girl. You got to listen to this a lot, okay? And just so much appreciation for you, RHIAH, and your wisdom and your willingness to share it all. That's the beauty of what you have. This has been an honor for me to sit with you and just to read from your book and say, okay, so tell me about this part.
Well, it's likewise an honor to sit with you and be able to marinate in the depth that we both share through this resonance in words. It's a real honor. So thank you for the opportunity.
I'm going to give you my favorite quote that I've ever said.
Oh, please.
And if you ever have the chance to write it or to speak it, you'll know when it is appropriate, because I know you 100% understand this. That the healing starts when the hiding stops.
Yes, absolutely.
And throughout your book, there is that resonating gift of vulnerability. We cannot begin to heal what we continue to hide.
That's right.
And the moment we step forth, the first time to say, I'm no longer hiding that, that's the moment that healing begins.
Yes.
And I know that both of us want deeply to share these bits of wisdom for no other reason than to lift others.
Yes.
As we lift ourselves, that we are lifting others.
And to have that intimacy with ourselves that we all deserve, so we can see ourselves and be seen by others without hiding. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful statement. Thank you.
And of course, I only know that because it's the journey I had to walk.
Yes.
And when I felt instantly, the moment I said, I'm going to show you a piece of me that I've never shown anyone before.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that healing begin.
So beautiful. Yeah.
All right, my friend, thank you so much for your time today. My listeners, thank you for being part of this really once in a lifetime podcast where I am telling you, and you're going to want to listen to this a lot. Usually I'm just like one and done. Okay, move on to the next one. Save this one, dog ear it. Put it in your journal, mark it in your phone on the calendar the day you first listen to this, and enjoy all that life is bringing for you. You are the reason that we are here. You are the reason that we continue to give day after day, because as we lift ourselves, our very best self only lives to its fullest when yours does as well. And that's why we're here. Have a blessed week. Namaste.
Crafting a meaningful life.